Hello and welcome back to Webcast News, and firstly just a shameless subscription plug. Go and subscribe to the channel if you want to. It would be very nice to see the subscriber numbers go up a little bit. But without further ado, and past shameless plugging, let's get into the actual news. And for this video we start with the never-ending issue of migration. And this comes into the news because last night Prime Minister David Cameron decided to reject calls to allow 3,000 migrant children into the UK. With David Cameron saying the reasoning for the rejection was that he didn't then want thousands of youngsters trying to make the dangerous boat journey over the Mediterranean Sea to the UK and going through Europe in any way really. And this rejection comes despite calls from charities and opposition MPs to allow these 3,000 migrant children in, because pretty much, sadly, these children will most likely be orphans. Now these initial calls were just looking at migrant children who had already got into Europe. However, now government has announced that it will be releasing plans alongside the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, in which they will look at the most vulnerable children in areas such as Syria. So rather than taking the orphan children that have already made it into Europe, they're going to go further distance and get the ones from Syria. Part of me doesn't think that makes sense. And this plan is just looking to save a few hundred children rather than the 3,000 that the initial calls would have actually protected. In David Cameron's speech, he also went on to say, "No country in Europe has been more generous than Britain in funding refugee camps, whether they're in Syria, Turkey, Lebanon or Jordan." And then he continued on with a few statistics for the UK on homing refugees. "We said that we would resettle 20,000 people in our country, and we promised to resettle 1,000 by Christmas. We achieved that." So is there much to argue there? Do statistics just play the whole part in it and that's it? Or should morals really come into this? But is there enough room in the country? There's a lot of different things that will come into this, so let me know in the comment section down below what your opinion on this is. Although this announcement from David Cameron isn't alone, as Sweden have now waded in on this, and they've taken a rather big step in cutting out migrants into the country. Sweden's Interior Minister Anders Ygeman, I don't know if that's actually how you say it, I don't speak Swedish, I'm sorry for that, announced that up to 80,000 migrants who had entered the country in the last year could be expelled in a stuttered process that will take a few years. And this comes after Sweden last year had one of the highest proportions per capita for taking in migrants into their country. So is this a general step that Europe are taking to cut down on migrants, or is this just two countries trying to cut down? And then moving on from the migrant crisis, because it is a crisis, to the DeLorean, which you might find a bit of an odd one. Yes, that is the car that's in the Back to the Future films. And the DeLorean is back in the news because it is actually going to be back as a car, hopefully, by next year. Only 9,000 DeLoreans were ever made in a span from 1981 to 1983. Obviously the car gained massive fame from appearing in the Back to the Future films. However, then production crashed and the factories for DeLorean that were actually left became just basically fixing shops. So they would, if you had a DeLorean, of which there are only thought to be about 6,500 left in the world, then you could go to those shops and get it fixed, which seems a bit useless really. Don't know how those shops were still going. However, now in Humble, Texas, thanks to some law changes regarding small cars, the DeLorean can now be remade because they have enough parts from the 1982 model to now make 300 of the DeLorean 1982 model. And they hope that these will be available from next year at under $100,000. So if you're a fan of the Back to the Future franchise and you want to get yourself a DeLorean, there's your chance. If you have about $100,000. And then finally for today is the early footage for the next lip sync battle on Spike. And this will be between actor and comedian, best known for voicing Olaf in Frozen, Josh Gad, taking on the Big Bang Theory star Kaylee Cuoco. Now if you haven't already seen the early clips, I'm going to link them in the description down below, But a bit of a spoiler alert, it involves Josh Gad dressed as Donald Trump doing a very disturbing rendition of the Divine's I Touch Myself, with a few odd things happening in this one, with a Donald Trump wig-themed wrecking ball sequence, and also making out with another Donald, with the other person in the weird make-out session being actor Johnny Galecki. And then Kaylee Cuoco deciding to do the Mystica verse on the ludicrous rap Move Bitch. That's probably the most up there word I've used so far on this channel, so high five everyone. No, that's probably not a good idea. And that lip sync battle will be on tonight in America, so if you do want to check it out and you are in America, go ahead and do it. I would give timings for it, but it's in the article that I've linked down below in the description, and I don't understand American time because you have way too many different time periods. You confuse me. And with that, that is it for today's video. If you have liked it, make sure you hit the like button. Like the shameless plug at the beginning, make sure you do subscribe to the channel. And as always, thanks for watching.